Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a new month, but the same old story. We're still living under the pandemic, and we'll be in the yellow stage. I thank those that made their attempt to come down here for church on Sunday. Again, I just want to remind you of the guidelines that the Archdiocese has put out for us when you do come to Mass. First of all, if you're up in years and your health is compromised, we don't want you down at church. You need to watch this thing on the YouTube. That's what you need to do. But if you are coming to church, the first thing we're going to ask you to do is make sure you come in with a mask on. There are going to be sanitizer stations in the back of church. I'd ask you to make sure that your hands are sanitized when you come in. We'd ask you before and after Mass not to gather in the narthex to chat, and to share conversation with one another. Seating will be limited in the church to every other pew. So I'd ask you not to sit in the pews that are marked off. Also, there'll be no missalettes for Mass. We don't want you touching any of that stuff. So all those will be gathered. Don't pick them up. For communion, I'm going to ask you to come down as you normally do for communion and to leave a space between yourself and the person behind you. We'd ask everybody to take communion on their hand, at least until this is over, wrapped up. For those that are going to stay home, we will also live stream the Saturday night Mass so that will be available for you to see on Sunday. And then the collection baskets are going to be at the exits of the church. And if you're making an offering to the church, I ask you to just leave your offering in there, and we'll pick those up right after church. Put it in the poor box if you wish. You don't feel secure with doing that. Or I encourage people to go to online giving, and that's probably the securest way to make sure that your collection offering is received and also that it is recorded with us. So I wish you well. I ask for Mary, the Mother of Jesus, to watch over us and to keep us safe and to help this thing soon to be over. And so that, but in the meantime, we just take the necessary precautions as best we can to try to be safe with everybody. I'd like to share with you a thought today, and I changed this around a little bit because earlier this morning I did this thing on this person showed up directly that day and he gave me this collection of nickels. If you saw this thing yesterday, and I talked about having the catalog complete, and so this one here is missing a couple spots, and the one in here it's all full, and our journey in life is to fill in the slots. That's what we need to do so that the book is complete. But I have a coin collection myself. I've collected coins for years. I don't know if you remember the Sacagawea dollars in 1979. They only lasted about 4 or 5 years. Well, I have about 170 of them. And I'm afraid to put them in the counting machine at the bank because the counting machine might take their quarters and I might get chipped. So I'll just probably hold on to them for a while. But I have a collection of dollar bills. I also have a collection of Morgan Anthony dollars. I have a group from 1885, 86, and 87. They're uncirculated. I've had them for about 30 years. They're just beautiful coins, just gorgeous things. Silver certificates for dollars, red fives, probably in the 50s when they made coins, everything of course was made of silver. And they did away with the silver thing some years ago, and everything is just like, it's whatever they throw in there. But something happened, and I shared with you about the penny. And I was telling you about my friend Teresa the other day, and I said, Teresa said, how will I let you know you guys are all right, that I'm all right? And I said, well, let us find money. I said, don't find pennies. I said, you find them bloody things all over the place. I said, I want to find pennies. And so Teresa said, all right, we'll let you find nickels. And that's where the nickel story came from. But to get back to the pennies, in 1943, which was 2 years before I was born, when they minted pennies, they didn't mint them with copper. They were minted with lead, and they were called the lead pennies. And I can remember just as a young kid, you would often get, if you went to the store and you gave the merchant a nickel for a candy bar or something, it was only 2 cents or something like that. He gave you 3 pennies back, and in all likelihood, you got a lead penny back. Well, they eventually collected all those things and they did away with them. The reason why they were lead rather than copper was because of the war. And so what the government was trying to do was collect all the copper that they could to make the equipment for the battles, for the bullets and for the shells and the airplane parts and all the other things that they needed. And so what they did was they didn't make pennies with copper, they made them with lead. I got a few of them. And I got them from a coin company in Littleton, Vermont, a number of years ago. And they come in little plastic containers as they're sealed off and all the other business. But there it is. It's just all lead. Lead. Now, the value of it is always the same, but what it's made of is different. And there's something to be said about that for all of us. See, what is the one thing, if anything, in my life that makes me stand out from just the ordinary? Is there anything in my life that makes me stand out from the ordinary? And I'm not talking about bad stuff. Yesterday I was at the Mac machine at one of the local banks, and a guy came in, he tried getting a bank, an older gentleman. And he's pulling that door. I said, you can't go in, the bank's closed, and the teller's going like this, you can't come in, you can't come in. She said, you have to use the drive-in to make that deposit, unless you use this machine. An older gentleman, and he dropped the F-bomb. And I said, yo, come on, will you? I said, he said, it's a rough world we're living in. And I said, it is a rough world. But I said, it's our job to make the world better, for God's sake, not to make it worse. And I said, your language is not reflecting goodness. I said, it's just arrogant. And you shouldn't be talking like that. Oh, Father, I'm sorry. I said, okay, but try to work on that. Now, that stuck in my mind about this older gentleman. He's probably as old as I am. Imagine that, using the F-bomb at the bank. My goodness gracious. Just because the door, he couldn't get in the door. We shouldn't allow that stuff to upset us or just to bring the worst out of us. Look at that lead penny. What is the one thing we remember about it is that it's different. And God wants us to be different, not for the right reason, for the wrong reason, but rather to be different for the right reason. When that happens, people take notice of that. Not that you would receive a lead penny if you went to Wawa today, but if you did, back in the machine, you would hold it up and say, hey, look at this one. Look at this one. This one's different. And if you and I live the kind of life that the good Lord wants us to live, then we become like that rare thing among many. There's something different about us. And so if you haven't developed that one thing in your life that makes you different, my encouragement just to today is to look into your heart and to see what you can be better at in terms of living a more Catholic identity in your life. And having that one thing that is special stand out and shine brightly in your life. And then you will be known as one among many, but certainly one that's really different among us all. May God's grace be with you and me as we continue to discover the power of the mystery of being different. Have a good day now. God bless you. We'll look for you tomorrow.